You're listening to Inside the Village, where all news is local and no topic is off limits.
So help me, Bob, it's bully in the alley. Hey, bully in the alley. So help me, Bob, it's
Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Village across the Village Media Network. I'm Scott Sexsmith with Michael Friscolanti, editor-in-chief here at Village Media. Derek Turner, executive producer, is in the room. It is the week of January the 31st, 2024. Bit of a change to the set.
Yeah, again. It's good.
We're continually tweaking with it.
There's a lot of construction going on here. It's the budget. I think we're over budget.
Well, and given how small it is, that's not hard to do.
Yeah, no, that's true.
To go over budget.
Going over zero.
Derek, with the line of the day, I mean, our concern was, is it going to hide our growing bellies? Mm-hmm. He's like, a little better. It's a little better. That's great. A little better.
Good to know.
Well, that's the magic of Photoshop. We'll just...
This isn't even real. This is all AI anyway. Who cares?
That's right. You're really not watching humans. You're watching artificial intelligence. What is not artificial is our guest today. We're so excited about this. Ted Nolan, former NHL Coach of the Year, has a brand new book out called A Coach's Journey from the Reserve to the NHL and Back, A Life in Two Worlds. We could probably sit and talk to him for days. We don't have him for days, unfortunately, but it's going to be a great conversation.
It's a fantastic book. His story is really inspiring. As I mentioned to you before we got on the air, James Hopkin, one of our reporters at Suit Today, wrote a big feature about the book before Christmas. It ran all across the chain. Most of our sites picked up the story. A real insight into what he went through coming from Garden River near Sault Ste. Marie here, but basically not even knowing he was ever going to play hockey. He never thought in a million years he'd be playing hockey, let alone coaching professionally. And sort of his journey through the navigating all those different challenges. It's a really powerful story.
All right, looking forward to that chat. That's coming up in a few minutes. But first, as always, the first word to Frisco. Let's start in the city of Greater Sudbury with a very strange story about a missing city councillor.
Yeah, this is a story that broke over the weekend. Michael Vagnini, is councillor up there, a longtime city councillor, I believe, just all of a sudden vanishes. They're looking for his pickup truck. There's no sign of him. I believe the reporting was that he was at a Freedom Convoy event over the weekend, and then there's a photo of him wearing, I believe, an Erie Otters jersey, yellow. That was what he was wearing last time he was seen. So we're recording this on Tuesday, and he's still not. So it's been 48 hours, I believe, or more than that, since he's been reported missing. So a lot of concern in Sudbury. Our team at Sudbury.com has been all over it, and up to the minute details on where the police are with their search, but no sign at all.
And concern too, if I recall the story, that he requires medication.
Yes.
And the family's not certain that he has it with him.
Very concerned about that. So that, obviously a lot of people that I think I read that there are people just driving around Greater Sudbury just looking for that truck. And I think one of the tail lights is smashed out too. So it's, not hard to spot if you see this truck.
Right.
So, we're all hoping for a happy ending there.
Absolutely. And anybody with any information is asked to call city police in Greater Sudbury. Okay, a little further west to the city of Sault Ste. Marie. It was 34 years ago this week that City Council there passed the English-only resolution, and just last night, Mayor Matthew Shoemaker made a statement that they got it wrong.
Yeah, that it was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
Were you living in the Sioux then?
I was not, but it was national news.
Oh, it was huge. It was all over the news.
Yeah.
Basically, simply put, the city said they were not going to provide bilingual services at City Hall. They just didn't have the budget for it. The city came down to money, that there wasn't enough demand for French services, so we weren't going to fund this. Made news all over the country, and I believe a court struck it down a few years later, so they had to change. Mayor Roswell, who's since passed away, apologized for it, I believe in 2010. And then Mayor Provenzano here in the Sioux, they flew the Franco-Ontarian flag, I believe, in 2015. But now they brought it up again to officially say it was a mistake. And I think it was the first time the City Council has ever passed a bilingual resolution where it was in English and French at the same time, right? Interestingly enough, we phoned up Joe Fertese today, who's now retired as the mayor and who's also the CAO. And he says this is like picking at an old scab. And he says, the City Council has way more important things to be doing right now than worrying about what happened in 1990. If you know Joe Fertese and you know him up here, that's kind of typical response. You kind of expect that. You know him. You had him on your up close and personal segment.
Absolutely,
he sat here for a half an hour. It's a great interview. I was watching it again last night after all this news broke. So it's one of those things where obviously the current City Council is trying to right a wrong, and they feel like they did. Sorry, Scott.
Is that Joe?
I'm up. My time is up.
That's right. Good night, everybody.
Anyways, yeah.
All right. Finally, big news. We've been talking about it the last few weeks. Next week at this time, we're going to give birth, so to speak, a brand new child joining the family. Flamborotoday.com will be born.
Yeah. Well, the next time we meet, we chat for Inside the Village. Flamborough Today will be live, flamborotoday.com. It's our latest site in the Village Media Network. It's part of Hamilton.
Right.
It's right beside Burlington and kind of connected to Cambridge up in the north. And it's super exciting for us. We've been growing in that area. We've Halton Hills today. We have down there Burlington today. We have multiple sites in the Niagara region. And now we're kind of inching our way into Hamilton. As I've said before in the show, Brenda Jeffries is our editor there. She was our editor in Burlington, but she lives in Flamborough. She's well known there as a journalist, has been there most of her career. We're just super excited about what we're gonna do there. I know the team has hit the ground running. They're already doing a ton of stories. Our team at the Trillium at Queen's Park is helping them with some pre-launch stories. And I understand that you've been seconded as well to be involved in this. So
yes.
That just brings it to a whole new level. Like,
Well, it brings it somewhere.
It goes from A to like A++, right? So I think you're going to be doing some sit-down interviews with some local city councilors there, and with Brenda as well. So that'll all be part of the first week of launch. So we're excited about that. So thanks for doing that.
Happy to do it. Flamborough Today, launching next week. All right, coming up next when the program continues, the one and only legendary Ted Nolan joins us on Inside the Village. We're back right after this.
Reporters, editors, and journalists who go the extra mile to get the story and get it right. Go behind the scenes with those who cover the stories that matter most to you and your community. Look for it in the Village Features section of your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
Welcome back to Inside the Village across the Village Media Network. I'm Scott Sexsmith alongside Michael Friscoletti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media. Very excited about today's program. We are thrilled to have on the line with us former NHL coach, coach of the year, of course a legend in the OHL, specifically in Sault Ste. Marie with the Greyhounds and the Memorial Cup back in '93, Ted Nolan. Ted, welcome to Inside the Village. It's great to have you.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Ted, let's start, if we can, with your health. No secret you were diagnosed with multiple myeloma. Can you describe the day for us that you got the news? How are you feeling now, and what's the latest?
Well, you know, I kind of accidentally found out that I had it. I fell during, actually, almost about a year ago. I fell in the snow, and I thought it was a snowbank, but it was a rock. And I hurt my ribs pretty bad. So I went I thought I broke my rib. And anyways, the doctor took an x-ray, nothing showed up. And I went back about a week later and said, "Dog, it still hurts." And so he did my blood work and all of a sudden sent me over to the cancer ward immediately. And I was kind of thick a little bit. I don't catch on real fast. And my wife was really concerned. And I said, well, that's where they do all the blood work, I guess. So I went there, and that's when they told me I had multiple myeloma. And my blood was something like 95% infected. So it was one of those really weird mornings that it kind of, you know, your whole life kind of flashes in front of you. You don't know how to react to it, and it was a pretty dark period for myself. And going through the chemo, thank God I had two good doctors that took really good care of me. And knock on wood, I'm on the mend right now.
How close are you to ringing the bell?
Well, you know, it's funny because when I go for my treatment, every once in a while I hear someone ringing a bell. And anyways, the doctor tells me my blood was really good, and he says, "Yeah, looks like we beat it." And I said, "Doc, how come I don't get to ring the bell?" He goes, "You want to ring the bell?" I said, "No, I don't want to ring. I just want the opportunity to ring it." Then he said, "No, I'm in remission." What he told me last visit. So hopefully down the road I get to ring the bell.
Awesome, great news.
Well, you look great, Ted. So all that news is great to hear. I have to tell you, I obviously know a lot about you. I've been a hockey fan and followed the game. But it was really a piece that James Hopkin here at Sault Today, one of our Village Media reporters, wrote about you and your book over the Christmas holidays. Real moving piece, just detailing the book, and it really showed me things I didn't really know about you and about your story. What was it that triggered you to write this book, Ted?
I think probably when I met with Rick Westhead, and we're talking about the Truth and Reconciliation. And at the same time, George Floyd incident happened in the States. And I remember a police officer saying that if you're complicit, you're part of the problem. You got to speak. And so when I talked to Rick, and I got really emotional going through it, and all of a sudden Penguin Books called and see if I'd be interested. And my wife and I, we talked about it for a couple of weeks or so before because if I was going to write it, I really wanted to tell the truth, and some of the truth was pretty. It's pretty emotional to relive and to remember. So, anyways, long story short, we decided to write it, and we wrote it hopefully to make a difference with the next kids coming through.
That struck me that your message here is that hopefully this book helps. It helps people understand what you went through and helps people in the future in situations they'd be in. Is there a particular, were there lots of emotions? Obviously, there were lots of different emotions writing the book, some high, some low. I mean, in the end, was it a therapeutic process for you, Ted?
It was very, very therapeutic because a lot of stuff I lived, I washed away. I just put it into compartment and I forgot about it. And sometimes that's some of the worst things we could do. And when I wrote the book and going through it and speaking to some therapists and what have you, I guess that's one of the worst things you can do. I just put everything off to the side. Ever since I was 16 years old, 15 years old, even 12 years old, I just put it behind and smiled my way through life that everything was good. And then all of a sudden, when I lost a job in Buffalo, that's when everything kind of come crushing down and reality hit. And I went into some very, very dark places, but thank God I spoke about it, and I went through it, and with the blessing of my wife, and thank God I had her my whole life.
Ted, when you were writing the book, how much did you think back to that night in December of 2005 in Chicoutimi?
That was one of the issues, and like I said, it was almost one of those things you just kind of wash off to the side. I was a grown man by then, but to reflect upon when I wrote the book, I can't imagine anybody in this modern era. I mean, this happened in 2007, I believe. Mm-hmm. It wasn't in 1807; it was 2007. And the thing I felt sorry for is the young children inside the building, the players on the bench. What are they thinking? How are they reacting to this? I went through it, and I just kind of I was angry and I was mad. But I also had to make sure that I stood my ground and didn't react, because I didn't want the kids on the bench to react, and then 10 years down the road they're going to be doing the same thing. So you try to set a positive image of how to react to stupidity once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Your book comes at an important time when we're all talking about truth and reconciliation and what that means to people in this province, in this country. What do you say to the average person who's not aware of what that means? How does your book help that conversation?
The conversation to me has always been, it's sometimes in life we complicated things too much. When I coach, everybody asks me what my philosophy is. I mean, you just put the ball in the net one more time, the opposition. It's not really that complicated, and so is this. I mean, the simple thing is don't be so judgmental and think that you're better than somebody else. We're all God's children, and we're all here trying to do the same thing, and having respect for one another, and get to know each other. You don't really know what someone's going through until you actually get to know them and talk. My whole career, right from the time when I went into Sault Ste. Marie to play hockey and go to school, not too many people ever said, "Ted, how you doing? Where do you live? How much family members do you have?" And nothing like that. But when I got home, everybody asked me that. So it was just like, and that's where the title of the book came in, Living in Two Worlds.
Mm-hmm. Ted, you started your career as a player, drafted in 1978 by Detroit, and of course some time in Pittsburgh. But your true passion was really coaching. Is that fair to say?
Fair to say, yes. It's one of those things. And hockey and coaching kind of just fell in my lap. I really enjoyed playing. I made my rink in my backyard, and I just loved to play. And my big goal when I was growing up wasn't to play in the National Hockey League because we didn't have a team. I didn't even know what the league was. I wanted to play with the Garden River Braves, our men's team on the reserve. That's where my brothers played, and that's where all the people went and watched. I wanted to grow up, and all of a sudden, before you know it, I was playing with the Sioux Greyhounds, getting drafted in the league, and injury forced me to retire. And it's the same thing. I really wanted to go to school and get a business degree of some sort, and I ran into the assistant coach of the Lake Superior State Lakers, Frank Anzalone, and he asked if I wanted to help out, which I did, and it just kind of led on from there to coaching the Greyhounds. And then we had such a great group of kids. I mean, almost all those kids, you look at them now. I mean, we had a few NHLers, but a lot of them are accountants, firemen, police officers. They're really good citizens of this great country. So that's the best part about it. So coaching is one of those things I just accidentally fell in love with, but because I really wanted to coach kids the way I personally wanted to be coached.
We're based in Sault Ste. Marie, as you know. In fact, our building is located right across the street from the GFL Memorial Gardens. You brought a Memorial Cup to the city in 1993. Was that one of the most talented teams you ever coached?
No disrespect to this team that won. I really felt the year before in 1992. That was I thought that was we had Chris. I mean, we had a powerful house, and I think losing at the Memorial Cup the first year. And going into the Memorial Cup, we just thought being the best in Ontario was good enough. Then all of a sudden you played Quebec and you played West, and there's a whole different world out there. So we learned it. But that 92 team was a great team. No disrespect to the 93 team, but they're both equally as good. But I could just say, flip a coin either one. That they're all good.
And it's true what they say, isn't it? Winning never feels as good as losing feels bad. And in 92, you probably, thought that was the year, and it didn't happen, but it did the following.
Well, 14.2 seconds left, or 14.6 when Zach Boyer scored that goal.
Right.
I thought, geez, we're all over them. We went into the championship 3-0. We're playing. We didn't play it too well at the beginning of that game, where we fell behind. Then we started turning it around. We started coming. Then all of a sudden, just time wasn't on our side, and they scored that big goal. But it was such a sharp pain to lose at that point. But knowing we came that far, and going into the next season, we wanted to get back even more.
How is your relationship with the Greyhounds now, Ted? Do you still get back and see some games?
To tell you the truth, I haven't been. I was inside the building maybe when my son Jordan played with the Greyhounds. That was probably the only time I went back, and but I live in Southern Ontario during the winter months, and so maybe someday we'll get in and get to see them play again.
Yeah. Can I ask you, Ted? There's been a lot of controversy here. I don't know if you've seen, but the team took down John Van Beesbroek's number 1 jersey from the rafters. Of course, John had an incident many years ago where he had used a racial slur against a player. And he left the team. I believe he left the team as the coach and the general manager, but they kept his jersey up. They've since redone the jerseys, and they haven't put his back up. But the team hasn't really given much of an explanation. They're saying it's the right thing to do, but they haven't really talked about why. Have you seen that, and do you have a thought on whether that should have been the way they did it?
Well, like I said, I don't want to get into that too much, but it's the right thing to do. I mean, what he said was wrong, and to honor someone for that part of his one small mistake that he made in his life is not a good thing. So I'm really thankful. I like the fact that they took the jersey down.
Ted, let's shift to your time in the NHL behind the bench, if we can. Coaching in Buffalo from 95 to 97, winning the Jack Adams as the NHL Coach of the Year. But despite that, it seemed the relationship with then GM John Muckler was a bit strained. Was it just differing philosophies between Muckler and yourself?
It was very different. like I said, when I coached at Sioux Grant, we had such a wonderful relationship with everybody involved, and I think that's how we won the league championship. I mean, from Sherry Basson to Dave Mayville to Danny Flynn, we had such a great group of people. We all worked, but when I got to the National Hockey League, it was totally different. I mean, the GM kind of gave you the team and didn't ask for your input, and so you just kind of coach what you got. And I found it really strange. Sometimes told what line combinations were to be played, and so I kind of listened the first year, and I told my wife that the second year, that's the year that I really wanted to resign. It just wasn't for me. And then all of a sudden, we just said, let's just go and do it our way. And so I just really coached the way I felt I needed to coach. And then it worked out. But as far as I think sometimes the ropes are tied too much on the coaches and what players he has or she has to coach. And sometimes it's like giving a carpenter different tools that he's used to doing. It's hard.
And then, if I recall, so Muckler gets the boot, and I think he won Executive of the Year at the NHL Awards that same year. So he gets the boot. Darcy Regier comes in and only offers you, was it a 1-year deal at $500,000 on the heels of you winning Coach of the Year, which to me seemed like a bit of a slap in the face.
Yeah, as far as Darcy, when we came in, the hardest part was, the contract offer was an offer that I heard about that was presented in the Buffalo News. It wasn't presented to me, actually. And so when I read that, and I called up Darcy and I said, a long time ago, our people couldn't read English, and they give up a lot of I could read. So I wanted to see so anyways, it didn't work out very well, and I didn't accept the contract. He pulled it off the table, and I went my way and he went his.
And I believe it was another 8 years between coaching jobs, I think, after that, Ted. How much do you think racism played into what went on here at Buffalo? A lot of people think it did.
It did. I really believe it did too. And like I said, it's you look at the coaching circle. I mean, people get chances after chances after chances after chances, and they don't have the results that warranted those type of chances. So the only thing I really wanted was another opportunity to prove, and I really felt, that year in Buffalo, we did such a good job. That team, I thought within a very short period of time, we were going to win the Stanley Cup too. So it was very, very disheartening. I've had a couple of interviews, but if you read the book, I did get an offer from the Washington Capitals, and which was a really hard pill to swallow, because they offer you the contract, and all of a sudden, within 24 hours, they pulled it off the table. So that was really hard to accept. But from that point, there was nothing on, and that's when I went into some bad thoughts and I was just an angry guy, and I was mad, and I just walked away. I didn't want nothing to do with the sport again, and one door closes, that's when I opened up we worked on the Ted Nolan Foundation, and a scholarship, the Rose Nolan scholarships, which I'm very proud to say, geez, we raised close to $2 to $3 million. And so I was really happy doing that. And then all of a sudden, Robert Irving from the Moncton Wildcats gives me a call and got me back in the game and coaching the Quebec League. Got the chance to coach the Islanders, even back with Buffalo again. But the biggest thing was coaching the Olympics with Team Latvia in 2014.
Yeah. It's written in the book, and you've talked about it in your interview with TSN, throwing the trophy, I believe, down the stairs, the Coach of the Year award. What is your relationship now with that award? Do you have it? Is it somewhere in a prominent place?
No, it's still down there. Like I said, it didn't really mean I never got involved with the game for trophies. I just got involved with the game because I really wanted to make the game better and entertain the people who come to watch it. I just really felt, when I first took over the Sioux Greyhounds, I mean, the way our team was played at the beginning, I mean, I wouldn't pay $5 to watch that. So you have to be entertaining, and people work hard for their money, and they need an escape sometimes, and that's what I used hockey as. It was my escape. It just going through it I went through as a kid, going outside and playing outdoor pond, and was my escape. Going to play hockey was my escape. So as a coach, I just envisioned everybody just come in there, have a great time, forget about problems for a while, and hopefully watch your team win.
Ted, you talked about the book helping others. Now that it's out and people have read it, has it helped you?
It really, when I was done, it really helped. Going through the process, it was extremely hard. It was extremely, extremely hard because some of the things I had to relive that I totally forgot about. I didn't want to remember, certain things of my past that happened, and some of the games I played, and some of the places we went to, and some of the dangers that I really felt. My life was certainly in jeopardy. In Kenora that one night when I was walking, and the gentleman, he was a big man. I was only 15, 16 years old, and he could have threw me over that ledge into the water and into the rocks, and I would be just one of the another number of one of those kids missing and gone. So reliving that was really hard, but I just felt by doing it was very therapeutic.
Ted, just sitting here listening and watching you talk about coaching, it's clear that you light up when you do that. All of the BS aside, do you miss it?
I miss it. I really do. I think it's one of those things I just love to do. I mean, I love building a team. It's not about individuals. You look at certain teams; they never win, but they win scoring championships. And one thing with our teams in Sault Ste. Marie, when we got to a certain point and we're winning 6-2, and why should a 50 goal scorer get his 52nd, 53rd, and 54th? Why not the guy who has 2 goals? Maybe he can get his 3rd and 4th and 5th. And if we run into trouble, he would be ready to step in and play. So I'm more of a team concept type of coach. That I'm no disregard to superstars. I mean, I coach Pat LaFontaine. He's one of the best in the business. But you also have to support him with a good team. So I love that role. And to me, coaching has always been like a teacher. You try to educate your group and how to pull them together and make them better people.
Jordan won a couple of Stanley Cups with Los Angeles in 2012 and 2014. Can you kind of walk us through what that moment was like for you and Sandra, not as Ted the hockey coach, but as Ted and Sandra the parents when your boy raises the cup?
That was like a surreal moment. I mean, it was just one of those things where we all want our children to do well in whatever profession they chose. And Jordan was, I think he was a 7th round pick. I wasn't too sure if he was going to play in the NHL. But anyways, he got called up, and then all of a sudden the team kind of took off. And a few months later, they're competing for the Stanley Cup, and to see him hoist the cup was, especially being an Ojibwe from the Garden River First Nation small community, was really, really exciting to watch, and it was. I was thrilled, but also very, very costly. They don't give you free tickets, and they don't give you free flights. So flying around and watching all those games, but it's money I'll spend all over again to watch the excitement on your child's face when he accomplishes a feat like that.
I can't say how many times we've seen that photo as you're driving out of town and past Garden River of Jordan holding the cup on the side of the highway. It's my kids notice it every time.
The book is called A Coach's Journey from the Reserve to the NHL and Back, A Life in Two Worlds. Ted Nolan, the author. Ted, this has been wonderful. You're one of the good ones, and we appreciate you doing this today.
Right, thanks very much, Scott. Mike, thanks for having me on.
For the latest in in-depth features and enterprise journalism from your local writers at Village Media, be sure to check out The Big Read. The Big Read, it's the full story behind the headlines. Look for The Big Read on your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
Back to wrap on Inside the Village. Man, it was nice having Ted. Again, Ted Nolan, A Coach's Journey from the Reserve to the NHL and Back, A Life in Two Worlds. It's a great read. Get it at your favorite bookstore. You will not be disappointed, as we weren't with that chap.
Yeah, that was a fascinating conversation. It's interesting, right? Because you remember Ted like that, right?
Yeah.
As a younger guy.
Oh, great flow.
We all age, I guess, right? and he looks great. And obviously, had dealt with some health issues, and it's good to see him coming out the other side of that. And just a great conversation. It's like I say it all the time. It's the kind of conversations we like to have on this show.
Funny story that we didn't cover during the interview, but you and Ted and Derek and I talked about it. Jordan, his son, played, of course, for LA, won 2 Stanley Cups, who is now in Shoresy, spin-off to Letterkenny. When you Google Jordan, which I did because I couldn't remember the years that he won the Stanley Cup, he comes up on Google as a Canadian actor, not a Canadian hockey player. And Ted told a wonderful story when Jordan was in an elevator, he and Ted, and a young child with his dad, kind of whispering, knowing who it was, and said, not, are you Jordan Nolan, the Stanley Cup winning hockey player, but are you one of the Jims from Shoresy?
That's great. And not, is that Ted Nolan the coach of the year in the elevator? No, it's Shoresy.
Yeah.
Do you know I've never watched Shoresy? I have not watched Shoresy.
I tried to get into it. I couldn't. Letterkenny, yes, in small doses, but Shoresy, I couldn't. I know Derek's a fan.
Is it on Crave?
It's on Crave.
Yeah. It's at crave.ca.
Plans available starting at only $9.99.
I was going to say, we're Inside the Village, now brought to you by Crave. That's right. I know. We are looking for a sponsor, aren't
Well,
we?
we've sold our soul for less.
Maybe you have.
And on that note, I think we'll put a bow on this episode. Top notch. Great to have a guy like Ted on, and like we said, he's one of the good guys, and always welcome here on Inside the Village. Okay, let's pack up, head out. Inside the Village, reach out anytime, itv@villagemedia.ca. Watch us or listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next Wednesday.
You've been listening to Inside the Village.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe, provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.